programs to enhance readiness. Now we move on. Israel's foreign ministry, in a recent update on X, has shared that passengers from the Global Sumud Flotilla are now being transported to Israel, where deportation procedures to Europe will soon begin. Authorities confirmed that the activists, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg, are safe and in good health. The Global Sumud Flotilla, comprising of more than 40 civilian boats and carrying about 500 activists, had been sailing towards Gaza with supplies for the war-ravaged region. Yesterday evening, Israeli forces intercepted 13 vessels and boarded several of them, taking control as part of their blockade enforcement. Despite this, around 23 boats are still attempting to reach Gaza. The interception has sparked protests worldwide, with demonstrators in Europe and Latin America calling for the release of detained activists. Meanwhile, the Colombian president has expulsed Israeli diplomats, whereas Turkey has called the Israeli flotilla raid an act of terrorism. Brazil too has officially expressed concern for its citizens on board. Moreover, Hamas has called the move piracy and maritime terrorism, urging the international community to denounce Israel. In a contrasting view, Israel maintains that some flotilla members may be linked to Hamas, but provides little evidence on these claims. The flotilla activists, however, reject these claims, saying that they were engaged in a non-violent humanitarian mission. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Peter Baum. He's a foreign editor of Weekly Blitz, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us. Good to see you. Now, how do you think the European public is responding, or international community is responding to Israel's interception of this flotilla, especially given the involvement of activists like Greta Thunberg?
Yeah, well, this flotilla is a very well-funded campaign, and the campaigners are a toxic mix of far-left extremists and Muslim extremists. So the outcome of the protests was entirely predictable, as the world's media continues to demonize the Jewish state of Israel. There's one thing that I would counter in your initial introduction, and that is about the link between the flotilla and Hamas. It's now well proven and documented, and Israel has provided the evidence that the campaign was funded by a Spanish shell company linked to a senior member of the Hamas hierarchy. So on that one, please recheck your sources, because now there is a definite link about who is funding the flotilla. But nevertheless, the outrage, the protests in Europe was well anticipated by authorities. There has been fight back in countries like Germany and Italy by the government, but in other countries, the protests have been encouraged significantly in Turkey, by the totalitarian leader Erdogan, and also by the far left party in Spain. So there's a kind of a paradox here between how governments in Europe and elsewhere are treating the process. And as far as the Colombian president is concerned, he is an extreme far left communist, if you like, and he is playing to a domestic audience of the poorest in his society. Economically and politically, what the Colombian president does, although I know you've mentioned it, is a complete irrelevance. It will have no bearing, no impact on what's going on.
And looking back at governments, do you think other governments will follow as what a Colombian president did, or I think it was Colombian president, but Colombian president is doing, or like Turkey has condemned them Do you think other or other countries might follow such?
It's possible, depending on the makeup of the government. Those on the extreme left would possibly follow suit as a symbolic gesture, but it's meaningless, and in actual fact, it completely goes against what the Trump administration and their plan for Gaza is doing. These governments, if they really want peace in the Middle East, should be encouraging dialogue with Israel, and in fact they're doing the reverse, which indicates to me that these governments, such as the Colombian president, have no interest in the well-being of the Palestinians, have no interest in seeing Israel and the hostage situation end, but have every intention of keeping the conflict going, although from not a military point of view, because they can't do anything about that, but from a political point of view, just to ensure that they stay in power. So what the Colombian president is doing is actually morally indefensible. It's reprehensible. He's a thoroughly indecent leader, and one hopes that he will be beaten in the next election. But as I say, he has absolutely no power to change or amend what's going on in Gaza.
And do you believe that these countries, how will it impact these countries, particularly Colombia's relationship with Israel moving forward, if they do take such actions like sending back the diplomats or cancelling the trade deal with Israel?
Yeah, indeed. Well, we've seen this throughout history where nation states have had arguments and conflicts with one another in year one, and then 5 years later, with the change of governments on either side, these are rectified again. So with Colombia, whether it's a short-term or a long-term thing, the economically, it's the Colombians that will be hurt the most. And paradoxically, they are using Israeli technology in all their infrastructure, whether it's the telephone system or the internet system. So it's really quite hypocritical of the Colombian president to cut off diplomatic relations. But that diplomatic relations can be restored again as easily as they've been broken, and that might mean a change of administration on either side. So I don't think the Israelis are too concerned about a far-left anti-Jewish state and very hostile government in Colombia cutting off diplomatic relations.
Right. Thank you, Peter, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to